What I'd like to look at now are the various options you have available to you in the Insert tab in OneNote. The first button on the Insert tab in OneNote is called Insert Space. In an earlier video I actually showed you how this worked, but just to remind you, let's go grab a page that's got some text in it. For example, I might decide to go to Roster, and I might decide to go to Project Overview. And what we have here is a container, a text container with a lot of text in it. I'd like to break this container up into smaller containers, and that way I can put them side by side. For example, what I'd like to do is click on the container, then go for my Insert Space button and click this, move my mouse over the container about here, and then I'll hold my mouse button down and drag. And I've just split the one container into two. And so now Team Resources is the start of a second container. I can then resize this container and then put this container up and over here, simply by moving it. If I wish to split this container into two containers, I'll go to Insert Space, I'll drag my mouse about here, and now I've split this into a third and separate container. So being able to split things into separate containers is quite possible with the Insert Space. Now the other thing that appears on your Insert tab is the button Table. And I might go to Sponsorship section for this, and what we might do is type the page title Budget. Now to insert a table, I'll click the Table button, and I can either drag across, and I haven't got my mouse button down, so I'm actually moving to the right and moving down until I get the number of columns and rows I'm after, so I might decide to click about here, or if I click below that table, I could go back to Insert, back to Table, and choose Insert Table instead of using this, particularly because this goes to a 10 times 8 table, as you can see up the top here, 10 times 8. And if I need a 10 times 10, I'll need to go to Insert Table and tell it that I want 10 columns and 10 rows. So there's two ways to create a table, and there's my 10 by 10. When it comes to working with tables, as soon as I click in a table, I acquire a Table Tools Layout tab in my ribbon, which wasn't there before. In fact, if I click away from the table, you can see that tab has just disappeared. As soon as I click in a table, it reappears. Now I'd like to split these two tables into two separate containers. So I'll go back to my Insert tab in the ribbon. I might even right-click this Insert Space button and add it to my Quick Access toolbar because it's quite useful. I'll then click the button either on my Quick Access toolbar or on my Insert tab, and then I'll drag to separate the tables into two separate containers, which is what I prefer. Now clicking in this particular container and going to Table Tools Layout, the sorts of things I can do on this ribbon is I can select the entire table simply by hitting this button, which the bigger the table, the more useful that becomes. I can simply select a column by clicking in a cell and then going Select Column. I can click in a cell and choose Select Row. Or I can click in a cell and go Select Cell. So there's various select options in the Select group. If I want to delete a table, I've got this button here and it will delete this table. If I then click in this table, let me just move it up and click in a particular column. And let me just put some information. I'll put a 1 there and I'll put a 2 there and a 3 there, just so you can see how this works. And I might put 4, 5 and 6. If I was to click here on the 2 and go to Layout, if I was to insert to the left, you'll see the 2 and 3 have moved to the right. So it's inserted a column where I wanted it to. I can also delete a column with this button, and it's disappeared. I could click here and say, actually insert above or below, so I'll insert above, and 4, 5 and 6 go down, and then I can delete a row. So you can easily insert above, below, left or right, wherever your cursor is placed. And remember, you have undo if things go terribly wrong. But you can also delete with these options here. You can also apply shading, so I could select these 3 cells, for example, simply by dragging from one cell to the other, or I could use this button to select an entire row, and then I could apply some shading, maybe orange, or just a soft orange. And you can see some soft orange has been applied to the top row. I can also select the top row and decide the text is to be centered, or to the right, or to the left of those particular cells. And we've also got the ability to hide borders, so that the borders don't show and don't print, or show borders. If I had some information in here, 2, 6, and 3, I could easily sort it also by clicking the sort button, and if I chose sort ascending, I'd get 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Actually, the blanks will go in beforehand, so I'll go undo. So you can easily sort as well. You can also convert to an Excel spreadsheet. And the other thing is you can easily share information from Excel and bring it into OneNote rather than create a table necessarily in OneNote. Let me just click somewhere. Now, as I click also, sometimes the container just keeps extending to accommodate me. What I might do is select this container and delete it just by pressing the delete key. And let's say I had Excel. So let me bring Excel into the picture. Let's say I'm looking for an event budget. So I might use one of the templates that come with Excel. I'll go File, in Excel, and I'll go New. And I'll tell it to search for an event budget. Enter. It searches for an event budget, and then I decide which one I'd like. So I might decide I'll take this event budget. It can be any event budget, and I'll create. It downloads the template, and eventually I'm going to put that into my OneNote notebook. So event budget 4, and I might just edit this and put pink ribbon. Oops. I might then decide to select all of this and copy it. Go to my notebook, click somewhere and paste it. And I've just pasted the spreadsheet into my OneNote notebook. I can then modify it by increasing the size of the container and start adjusting the column widths just by dragging. So you can, if you prefer, to create something in Word or in Excel, you can then copy and paste it into OneNote if you find that creating it is easier in a different application.